members of our block association and their neighbors wrote responses to the SEIS and MGPP review process than any other organized civic organization or coalition. Most of our voices were directed toward achieving greater responsiveness and accountability from the community and the public, from the project sponsor and the state. Our concerns were directed toward protecting the public interest, but the imperative was derived from our day-to-day experiences. We are dependent on project oversight, we know it well, and all of us ask for it to be reformed and empowered in response to the specific concerns we detailed. The oversight created as a product of the Fifth Avenue Committee and Brooklyn Speaks Agreement is not adequate to the concerns our block association members and their neighbors raise. The governor has risked losing very little of the influence of his office, and the history of Atlantic Yard shows that doesn't work. The community doesn't have access to the governor. The developer has access to the governor. What's being created is an advisory body with 9 of 14 board members appointed by the governor. Decision-making and enforcement continues to reside with the existing ESD board, also appointed by the governor. The funding and staff of the board is undefined, and there's no description whatsoever of how the board will fulfill its key mission to us of monitoring the on-site conditions. There is no one with any knowledge of Atlantic Yards who would expect an unsecured promise of future performance to be fulfilled when so many promises have not been met. We're the ones being asked to bear the risk, and how long will it be before we find out that we are the ones that need to do the state of New York's work of oversight once again? I turn it over to Peter Krashes.
Thank you.
The history of Atlantic Yards is that the devil is in the details. Ford City, Ratner, Greenland, whoever comes next, will split hairs with the contracts they have. What is delivered is rarely more than what is spelled out in written agreements, and often is less. Atlantic Yard's construction has been ongoing for 8.5 years for a project originally described to have a 10-year build-out, and not one single building, not even Barclays Center, has been completed. The construction plan now, likely to be implemented, is different than any plan anticipated, and a new developer owned by the Chinese government is taking a majority interest in the project. Neighbor after neighbor of the project has already detailed to you non-compliance with environmental commitments that are part of the project agreements, yet we still have to fill the oversight vacuum ourselves. Through this process, we called for an impartial and motivated environmental monitor on site who would keep the state accurately apprised of conditions at the site. What is it about Atlantic Yards that makes a simple goal like that so difficult to achieve? Lack of response to the community is just the tip of the iceberg of oversight problems. In instance after instance, this developer has received favorable treatment from government while delivering less than promised. Unusual and forceful steps are often taken on behalf of the developer, while only tentative steps are taken to assess the claims they make. Where is the oversight? Why doesn't it get put in place? There is a difference between being pro-business and being pro a specific business. How come the higher-ups in government can't figure that out? The Brooklyn Speaks Fifth Avenue Committee Agreement only had the possibility to exist because of poor oversight. One of the things keeping this project from progressing has long been Ford City Ratner's economic condition and scale, problems oversight should not have missed, most especially in 2009. It is this vulnerability that has made this agreement possible. But Atlantic Yards is complicated, and there are numerous categories of stakeholders. An intervention of this sort, threatened litigation discussed behind closed doors with the state, city, and developer, is not really a public process, and runs the risk of emphasizing one category of interest over another. At some point, we hope this project stops being about interests and becomes about building the vibrant, mixed-use neighborhood it is supposed to become. Oh, and with transparency to the public and consideration to the residents most directly impacted by the construction, concerned about the viability of the immediate neighborhood. Now, actually, I was asked, because there's another member of the Block Association, maybe Derek Lynch, suggested that I just keep going with another comment. It's very brief.
No, that's okay. Where's Derek?
No. I'm right here.
Good morning, Derek. But yeah, can you wrap up, Peter?
Yeah, I'm done with the D Street Block Association comments. So
yes, please, Peter.
Do Wayne's now.
Okay, I think it was. Oh, sorry, it was Marion who said that.
Go right ahead.
Okay. So this is from a resident named Wayne Bailey, who some of you are familiar with because he when he has the opportunity to come here and speak to you, he does. and he sent an email. He's not coming today. I'm truly at a loss that any agreement has been negotiated and signed in secret with the most impacted residents getting any notice of the lack of any enforcement mechanism, remedies or fines for the continual violations from construction or environmental impacts, none cited from news articles released in the middle of the night, but has grave specific monetary penalties for not delivering affordable housing. The groups that negotiated and signed the agreement did so with the full knowledge that an enforcement element was required to any agreement signed on the impacted residents' behalf. It matters less to them that they don't live with construction or 24/7 Barclays Arena operations. Again, demonstrated last night at 1 a.m. during an arena event and at 6 in the morning, 4 city Ratner contractors appeared to have violated the hours of operation code. While an entity is formed, it is just another advisory board. Sorry.
No, Peter, I recognize that you're reading that on behalf of Wayne. Give Wayne my regards, and I really appreciate his thoughtful comment. Again, as I said before, this really isn't a forum for us to respond as much as just to listen. That's our job. But I do want to respond just for informational purposes, 2 things, because it might be helpful. We have in our agreement 6 months here at ESD to create the new subsidiary. And we're going to want to talk to you and make sure that the activities of the subsidiary capture, and I know it's late in the game, and I know it's frustrating as always, but capture your recommendations around oversight so we can do the best, so we can do better, and so we can do the best that we can. Will it be enough to set, we'll do as much as we can, and I just want to talk to you more about that and have you help guide us as we prepare it. But we have 6 months to do that.
May I make a suggestion then that perhaps that there's an agreement for the CSD board to put it back on the agenda, that specific subject?
Well, we will be, yes. The board, we meet monthly, and we'll be working on the construction, the setup of the subsidiary, and there'll be public meetings like this as we actually, as you say, devil in the details, and we put the details together.
But this is the, this is the decision-making body, so I think you guys would like to be reported back to, and this would be an opportunity to have the public come back and report to you on the success of the oversight body.
Absolutely.
So perhaps say, if it's 6 months, we could do it in 3 months and 6 months, whatever you.
Peter, I expect you to provide oversight of the oversight.
I expect to be.
No, so seriously, we've got 6 months, and we'll need your input. We really value it, as you know, and so the answer is yes. And we'll want you back to comment on all the things. Well, maybe some things we're doing well and things we're not doing well, but for your feedback as we set up this up. But also on the environmental monitoring, Joe just slipped me a note. Where's Rachel Schatz, our project expert with respect to? And we haven't done enough to thank Rachel for all the great work on the FSEIS. So again, Rachel, that was the board action. Some of you were here that we took on June 11th. But Rachel, could you just talk briefly about changes around the MEC?
Get a microphone, Susan. There you go. You're on the air.
Well, Robin, I think, included some of the contractual arrangements for penalties for contractors that continue to be in non-compliance. But in addition, there's been some changes. A lot of the changes in the MEC, for the Memorandum of Environmental Commitment.
Can you hear okay, you guys?
I can bring this closer.
Sorry. This is really, I want Peter to be able to hear this.
Many of the changes to the Memorandum of Environmental Commitments for the MEC were better defining and better describing and instituting protocols for mitigation requirements that we already had. But in this way, everybody could be clear on what would be required, what would be considered a non-compliance event, and there would be no open for interpretation disagreement. So that was a big step. Additional staffing requirements have been instituted, and most importantly, the effort on behalf of FCR to hire an outside engineering firm with the qualified staff, and we feel that is a very important step in improving the on-site monitoring. And this firm or number of individuals would be on-site and have a constant on-site presence, and we think that by itself is a major improvement. There are better requirements for dust management plans. We now will have dust management plans submitted for major events or major construction activities. And that way, each one of them can have their own specific requirements tailor-made. And we have new protocols for noisy equipment, and that was something that's been in the works for a long time between ESD and Forest City, and we've come up with protocols that we're all fairly pleased with, and we've already been testing the equipment on site, and that's been working very well.
Thank you, Rachel.
I have a question. In regard to the outside engineering firm, which is to be hired to monitor the construction process, who will determine who that firm is? How will the firm be selected?
Forest City is going to be doing the bidding for it, the soliciting for it, but ESD will be approving the scope of work that goes out in that bidding. And if there's any displeasure on our part about the functioning of this person, we can remedy that.
So the firm or the individual, whatever it is, would be reporting to Forest City, not to ESD?
Right. The way the MEC is set up is mitigation requires that Forest City perform these mitigation measures, and ESD is in a position to oversee it, and that's why we have a mitigation monitor who's out there to oversee how the OEM, or the on-site environmental monitor, is performing.
So we have the oversight responsibility.
Okay, and who's paying for this?
Forest City.
Forest City, okay. And what is the mechanism? Okay, so we have somebody on site also. So what is the mechanism then if there is a problem? How will that process work? It would be reported by the outside engineer to both Forest City and to us, or to our person
Well,
on site?
ideally, the on-site environmental monitor will remedy the non-compliance issue right away.
Hopefully.
And yes, whatever reporting responsibilities they will have with Forest City, that's for them contractually to arrange, but they should be reporting that to our environmental monitor, our mitigation monitor. And we also have a community liaison who should be apprised of these things right away, and that ESD should be notified immediately.
Okay, and it would also go to this new oversight board?
Most likely, yes, that's right. One of the responsibilities of the sub.
Okay, so there'll be written procedures, though, outlining all of this?
Sure. Peter?
All right. Thank you for those thoughtful questions. There's just a couple. I think one of the issues really is that the on-site environmental monitor, Forest City Ratner, and the state's environmental monitor reads the paperwork of the on-site environmental monitors out there on a regular basis. I have a question for Rachel about how the state's environmental monitor and the owner's representatives are reviewed, whether those contracts are an opportunity for Forest City Ratner to look at who might be hired, because that might be one of the ways that, I think our
If
concern
there's a
is
short answer to that question, good. If not, you and Rachel can talk about it offline, just because I don't know.
Okay.
We need to keep
Can
moving on.
you repeat the question?
Sure, I'm asking if there's ever been a history of Forest City Ratner reviewing the options for an owner's rep or an environmental monitor.
That ESD?
Right.
No,
No.
not before the selection.
Okay. Thanks.
Peter, thank you. And I'm sorry, the new president of the Dean Street Block Association's name is?
Rhona, Hetsrony.
Rhona, pardon me. Thank
Again,
you.
we just want you to
I just
realize
want to
that 6
clarify.
months is a long time, if we could shorten that at all, because construction is very, very active right now.
Well, we'll continue to do, yeah, I've got that. Good point. And, sorry, Rachel.
If you're talking about when ESD hired STV or HDR,
Yeah.
I believe we may have mentioned to Forest City who were hired to ensure that there was no conflict of interest before we retained them.
Thank you.
Very good.